Welcome everyone to the continuation of this series, The Time to Prepare. Today we want to take up the subject of the National Sunday Law, how it comes about, its enforcement, and some of the signs that we'll see pictorially on our PowerPoint program. Right here we see the first of the captions, Matthew 24, 3-6. Jesus is asked a question by the disciples, "What shall be the sign of that coming, the end of the world?" And Jesus answered and said unto them, "Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many, and ye shall hear wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass." So the biblical prophecy is set in two phases here. There's going to be false Christs, and there's going to be wars and rumors of wars. I want to go with some of the spirit of prophecy emphasis on this prophecy from Great Controversy 589 and 590. It says there that there will be a series of catastrophes, disasters. For example, terrific hailstorms, hurricanes, tornadoes, forest fires that you can't put out, and conflagrations. And all of these things, it says, that is set up by the devil himself. And so as we look at some of the pictures this morning, I think you will see that this part of the prophecy is easily fulfilled. In 21 MR 101, the time of trouble, it says, has already begun. Here we see a picture of a riot over a hockey game in Vancouver, British Columbia, in which several people died in these riots. We hear continually of riots and accidents and murders and robberies. Human life is no longer safe unless under the protection of God. These riots and so forth indicate a time of trouble already. You all remember this World Trade Center disaster and emphasis of catastrophes and people suffering and great loss of life of over 3,000 people. Notice in the background of this superimposed picture a debris plume coming down the narrow streets of Manhattan, and it's chasing the people, and you see the expression of panic on their face. Jesus says, "Now I've told you before it come to pass, that when it is come to pass, ye might believe." Believe in what? Believe because he is prophesying, telling his people what is coming because he loves us. And that when he says these things, we might believe in him. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. Matthew 24:7. The indication of the occurrence of some of these things are already taking place. This is the actual quote from 589 and 590 of Great Controversy. "In accidents and calamities, by sea and land, and great conflagrations, fierce tornadoes, terrific hailstorms, tempests, floods, cyclones, tidal waves, and earthquakes. In every place and in 1,000 forms, Satan is exercising his power. These visitations are to become more and more frequent and disastrous." That is, brothers and sisters, are going to be closer together, and they're going to be more intense. And as we go on through our program here, we want to give you some evidences of some of these things actually taking place today. Here's a graph. Notice it starts on the left side here of very few natural disasters. This is accumulated from the United States Weather Bureau. And you notice up to about the year, almost the year 2000, there's a bit of an increase in natural disasters. But now, look, the climb is exponential in the occurrence and the intensity of natural disasters. And in our next slide here, you see the earthquakes from 1900 to 2008, starting in the year 1900, going all the way across again to almost the year 2000, and then an exponential climb of the incidence and magnitude of earthquakes. This graph shows magnitude 6 and 8. Those are destructive earthquakes. Somebody has mentioned to me in the past that this particular graph is misleading because they didn't have the seismograph. But, you know, the seismograph came in about 1955, or approximately there. And notice after 1955, you can see there's hardly any change, even though they had the seismograph functioning. But when you get to 2000, look what happens. Something very, very intense and destructive has happened since 2000 and will increase, we're told in the prophecy, as we near the end of time. Since 1844, there have been 370 earthquakes of 7.0 and higher, as compared to 21 earthquakes of the same magnitude in the previous 3 centuries. Letting this soak in just for a minute, the earthquakes that are 7.0 and higher, there has been 370 of those very destructive earthquakes since 1844, compared to 21, only 21, the same magnitude in 3 previous centuries. You might ask the question, how do they know that those magnitude earthquakes occurred the previous 3 centuries? And it's a very simple archaeological function, is they judge by the cracks and the amounts and depth of the fractures in the faults, and they can make very accurate judgments on the intensity of the earthquake that caused that, even as much as 300 years ago. We're told that there will be great conflagrations, that is, forest fires, that we can't put out. And here are some examples of those as we go through this destruction of houses. 40% of the town of Slave Lake, Alberta, was destroyed, completely destroyed and wiped out by a conflagration. Fierce tornadoes. This is an example of a class 3 or 4 tornado in Sioux City, Iowa, and the incidence of these are steadily increasing. This is a tornado in Joplin, Missouri in 2011, 160 dead and 990 injured. My wife Linda and I actually traveled through this in our reach our next appointment for a seminar on end-time events, and we drove around through the area where this tornado hit, and there's absolutely nothing there but foundations in the palm of the hand, and that's a hailstone in Stillwater, Oklahoma in 2011. Terrific hailstorms are part of the prophecy. May I just stop here just a moment? In becoming a watch man on the walls of Zion, as expressed in Ezekiel 33. We must use prophecy and prophecy only, and not speculation. If somebody comes to me and hands me a hailstone, they've got my attention because it's part of prophecy. But if they come to me with speculations or guesswork, or this might happen or it might not happen, that's not being a true watchman. Our watchman and our declaration should be based on fulfilled prophecy. Here's some of the effects of the hailstorm. It went through the windshield of the cars, and it is a time of complete destruction and totaled many cars. We're told floods will come and so forth, and here's pictures of a couple of examples and the houses floating by. The time is near when very large cities will be swept away, and all should be warned of these coming judgments. Evangelism, page 29. It is our job to give the warning that these cities, it says every one will be turned upside down in every way. This is in Indonesia. This is a village of several hundred people, even a couple of 3,000. I want you to see this picture before, and then after the tsunami came in from a 7.8 earthquake, or I think it was even higher. You can see where the water came in, and when the water came in, it came back out and completely destroyed these buildings in this village in Indonesia, and also killed several hundred people. 220,000 people died in that earthquake and in the resultant tsunami. This is the Japanese tsunami after earthquake, and 28,000 deaths. Guess how that boat got up on top of that 2-story house? That's the depth of the water that came in. A mudslide, you get tremendous downpours. It loosens the soil, and here is a video clip of an actual slide that has been dislodged. The resultant damage is horrendous. Typhoons in the Philippines will be obvious here, and the typhoon is a hurricane in the southern hemisphere, and it rotates opposite direction from a hurricane in the north of the equator. Many people died in these typhoons. Katrina came into New Orleans. New Orleans is 8 feet below sea level, and when the levees are breached, it fills up with water, and many people died in their homes or in the attics of their homes as a result. And right behind it was Hurricane Rita. You can see the outline of Texas there. It came ashore in Houston. They told the people in New Orleans to get out, but they couldn't because many of the families of 12 only had a Toyota car, and they couldn't get everybody in, and so many died. But in Houston, they gave the warning message that get out as soon as you can, and this is a resultant. A horrific traffic jam. People were traveling at the rate of 5 miles in 8 hours. fires broke out in the cars and the freeways from overheating. It gives you the idea of ere long there will be such a time in the cities. Here's the reference right here from Country Living, page 11. Ere long there will be such strife and confusion in the cities that those who wish to leave them will not be able. We must be preparing for these issues. Evidently, brothers and sisters, the message given by God's messenger is to get out, but there's a time coming when you can't get out, so there is a deadline. Satan is exercising his power. He gives the air a deadly taint and thousands perish. Famine, where the crops dry up and there's no food. This is a picture that was given a special Pulitzer Prize. This little child is about ready to die from malnutrition, and the vulture is just waiting. He imparts to the air a deadly taint and thousands perish. This is Toronto, New York, Los Angeles, all kinds of. In fact, I have documentation in my file where 7 million people a year die of pollution, air contamination. 7 million, that's awful. So fresh air is very important. In Phoenix, they have sandstorms. Here's an example of one followed by a second one that was very damaging. And the contamination, the tragedy and loss of life in the Philippines is absolutely heart-rending. And people picking up the bodies of their children. And so the natural disasters, and the devil lied to us. He says he has a better plan. Well, here's his plan right here. There's two people in this picture. The person to the left there is all bloodied and battered. They're being saved from the effects of the earthquake, 8.0 earthquake in Haiti. And here in Chile, the earthquake toppled this building with people in the building. In Christchurch, New Zealand, earthquake toppled this family's house, and a 7.0 earthquake broke up the streets and a host of other damages and loss of life. One of the biggest environmental disasters of all time was the oil spill, the broken pipeline in the Gulf of Mexico. The following slides show you the effects of oil on the beach, the damage to wildlife and animals, and it's just one of the signs of the calamities by sea, which we don't usually think of as that happening. This sinkhole was caused by a landslide due to Tropical Storm Agatha in Guatemala City. And there was a house in this with a family of 5 in it that just disappeared. Through the two great errors, the immortality of the soul and Sunday sacredness, Satan will bring the people under his deceptions. While the former lays the foundation for spiritualism, the latter creates the bond of sympathy with Rome. The Protestants of the United States will be foremost in stretching their hands across the gulf to grasp the hand of spiritualism. They will reach out over the abyss to clasp hands with the Roman power, and under the influence of this threefold union, this country will follow in the steps of Rome in trampling on the rights of conscience. And this is literally taking place at this time. The Pope is advocating and has supporters, and he appears by video link to various Protestant convocations saying, Protestantism is over. We are all one. And Kenneth Copeland, to the late Tony Palmer, Anglican, sent the message of unity to the Pope. This shows that we are reaching across the abyss to grasp the hand of unity with the papacy. Then the great deceiver will persuade men that those who serve God are causing these evils. It will be declared that men are violation of the Sunday Sabbath. This expression here, brothers and sisters, tells us that Satan causes all these catastrophes, and then the next phase of his program is that he blames us for all of these calamities. Be thou prepared, it says in Ezekiel, and that theme is all through the Bible. Prepare for thyself and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. Don't despair. God has a plan. Notice the emphasis here. A storm is coming, relentless in its fury. Are we prepared to meet it? We need to prepare our hearts with a relationship with Jesus Christ. We need to prepare with our hands. And that's all involved in the message that says we should move into the country where we can raise our own provisions. For in the future, the problem of buying and selling will be a very serious one. A storm is coming, and God has a plan for us. And in our next presentation here on a time of no buy, no sell, we want to tell you a little bit more about it, how we can do more about God's plan in getting ready for what's ahead of us. Preparedness of heart, preparedness of hand. As we move out of the cities into the country, we will need to work our hands with our hearts, with God, in teamwork. Those of you who may be older and you may want to join a team because you're needed. You're needed. And God bless you all as you consider these times in which we are to move out of the cities. Thank you very much.